and then we'll switch. Okay. We have a full-packed agenda, so we will go through who is SCM Accelerators, a quick overview of our company, what we do, and for the customers, and then we will switch to Sujit. Thank you, Sujit, for joining us today. So he's going to share the SAP roadmap of aATP and also share some of the key features that are in pipeline for the customers. And we will then set the stage for our demos. So we have a couple of slides that talk through why aATP and also what are the key features and fundamental building blocks of aATP. So, and then we will launch into a demo. So our demo is scheduled for about 35 minutes, and then immediately after the live demo, so we can switch to Q&A. So who we are, SCMA was founded in 2009, and definitely we had significant leadership in this space for over 9+ years. We help customers solve order promising problems holistically across various industries. We are in the process of helping customers also to migrate their current solutions to the future. We have leadership in the planning space, so we do help customers in terms of planning solutions, again, across a broad industry spectrum. So we are eager to help customers connect and integrate IBP response to aATP. Again, we lead in that space of how aATP and IBP response can work together, leveraging the allocation space. We work very closely with SAP and co-innovate in several solutions. Our team is vastly experienced in a wide industries. So we have experience across CPG, life sciences, fashion, high tech, very strong and robust experience there, and understanding of the business processes as well as the technologies that spread across these industries. Very solid depth in aATP and GATP space, years of development experience as well as labs experience that is brought to our customers, so we can solve very complex problems. And you know, when you visit our website, you can find several references that talk to the solutions that we have deployed and developed to solve various customer problems. Today's team that is available to you is very experienced, and our leadership comes with Alfredo, who is going to present the product allocations demo, Manoj, who is going to share and present some of the key features of aATP, and Balaraj, that is me, I'm hosting this webinar along with Sujit, and we will have Armando, Thomas, Dejan, and Daniel sharing the Q&A space and acting as a panelist.
Balaraj,
yes.
Just a second. On the right-hand side, there's a frame that it's covering the presentation. Just
okay, I'm going to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. Okay, so we'll switch now to Sujit, who's going to share us the SAP roadmap and what is in store for the future customers. Sujit?
Okay, thank you, Balraj. A warm welcome from my side as well. So my name is Sujit Acharya. I am part of the Solution Management Organization for Digital Supply Chain in SAP, and I am responsible as the solution owner for the ATP topic. So before I go into the roadmap or the current status of what is in advanced ATP, let me talk a little bit about the historic evolution of this new solution. So many of you might already know about this, especially the left-hand side. Those who have worked in the SAP Business Suite, you already know that, okay, we have two flavors of ATP, right? So one, we have the basic ATP functionality predominantly used by most of our customers, and then for those customers who needed any kind of advanced order promising functionality, they always relied on the supply chain APO GATP functionality, right? So that is what we had in our business suite world. In 4 or 5 years ago, when we started our strategy of what is going to be the future of supply chain, at that point of time, we realized that the more planning aspect of supply thing. We wanted to have a more cloud-based solution, which is the got translated into the integrated business planning. So as you know, the demand planning and the supply network planning of APO are having that equivalence in integrated business planning. And the more execution-related functionality, where the production planning, scheduling, and the GATP, we decided to move it to the core itself, to S4 HANA. So that was the initial decision. For PBDS, of course, it is S4 HANA, but for ATP,
Sujit, your audio is fading in and out. Perhaps you can move closer to the.
Yeah. Can you hear me now better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, so so as I was saying, so for the ATP part, we decided to build the entire ATP functionality from scratch in S4 HANA architecture. So as you can see in the right hand side, for those customers who have been using the ECC ATP, they get the same ATP functionality in the on-premise version of S4 HANA as part of digital core. And on top of that, we are building the advanced ATP functionality from scratch, as I said, and this will be separately licensed, but it is technically part of core. So it uses the same master data and same transactional data that is available in S4. So there is no need of any kind of integration that was earlier there between APO and ECC. So when we build this functionality, our ECC ATP functionality, we knew that, okay, it was very simple to use, though it lacked the functional depth, and it was okay as far as performance is concerned. When we built APO GATP 20 years ago, we improved on the functionality. The performance was better because of live cache, but unfortunately, we compromised on the simplicity. So many customers realize that, okay, when they move to APO GATP, that, okay, it is complex to use and it needs some special skills to understand or to configure that functionality. So when we built the advanced ATP, we wanted to have best of all three worlds. So we wanted to have more functionality, and we, of course, the performance would be much better because it is part of the S4 HANA core itself. But at the same time, we wanted to make it as simple as possible. So that was the idea behind how we are building it. So again, for on-premise customer, the basic ATP remains as it is, and there is an advanced ATP on top of that. For cloud customer, this is also available in S4 HANA Cloud, public cloud offering, and some functionality of the advanced ATP is available for all the core customers. So that is how we have designed in the S4 HANA public cloud. So Balraj, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so of course, so what is advanced ATP, the principles behind advanced ATP? So the basic ATP does simple mapping that, okay, whenever a sales order or any other demand element like stock transfer orders come, then it maps the required quantity at the requested place from the existing warehouse stocks or the stock in transit or the production orders and so on. So all the supply elements. This is the idea behind the basic ATP functionality. It becomes tricky in case of supply shortage situation. So when we need to consider the business priorities and profitability, when the supply is less than the demand, which is most of the time the case. So then the customers need this advanced promising or advanced ATP functionality in order to prioritize their demands, that, okay, which demands should be catered to, and how it should be catered to, orchestrating the entire network. And that is where advanced ATP is coming into picture. If we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so what are the functionality that are currently available? As I said that, okay, since we are building the advanced ATP from scratch, not all of the equivalent GATP functionalities are available in advanced ATP. We are still building it. We have a very strong roadmap, which I will be covering next. But what are available as of now by 1809 release, or in the cloud, we have also released the 1902 release recently. So what is available? So these are the main 5 functionality that are available: the product availability check, backorder processing, product allocation, alternative based confirmation or ABC, which is the equivalent of what we had as rules based ATP, and the release for delivery app. So again, I would not say all of these functionalities are complete because we are still building enhancements of all those functionalities. But especially for the backorder processing and product allocations and release for delivery, of course, it has gone to a maturity where it can be used independently or also in the combination of each other. Yeah, so that is what is the current status. And Balaraj and team are going to show some of these functionalities during the course of this today's session. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, yeah. So this is how the timelines of advanced ATP. In 2015, we started. We released the ATP controller, the product availability check, the backend of the advanced ATP. In 2016, we released the backorder processing setup and result monitor. We released the first version of product allocation and the release for delivery app. 2017 is when we enhanced most of these functionalities, the backorder processing, product allocation, where we introduced the logical OR relationship with the product allocation sequence. And of course, we have the supply assignment run that we introduced in backorder processing. And there are support for segmentations and so on. In 2018, last year, we enhanced our backorder processing to handle exception automatically. So with the fallback variant, so that is what we introduced in backorder processing. We also introduced ABC, which is the substitute for rules-based ATP. The first version of ABC, of course, ABC has a long, strong roadmap ahead. We focused predominantly on the location substitution functionality here. So the first version is released, and of course we did some analytics for the monitoring aspects of product allocation. What is planned in the next 2 years? Yeah, so I don't want to commit to any specific timeline, but I just wanted to say that okay, all these are planned for the next let's say 8 quarters, 2 years. Is that okay? We will have the location substitution supported in BOP. In fact, this is coming by next quarter, and we will also have the manual alternative selection by next year. We will also have the product substitution functionality, or the first version of product substitution will come, which is the product allocation after the product availability check. So this kind of functionality we will achieve hopefully by end of this year. And we also have the logical and relationship between the product allocation objects. This is also coming. This is also already developed, and this is coming in the next release. And also we will build some product availability check explanation tool. So these are the functionality that are planned for the next 6 to 8 quarters. And as far as product vision is concerned, which are the functionality that are planned beyond 6 to 8 quarters, of course, we have improved or we have increased our team capacity. So we believe because of the demand that we see from the market, we believe that okay, this has become an extremely important functionality for SAP to focus on. So we have increased our development capacity, and we will be more aggressively building the new functionalities here, especially the industry-specific functionality we will be focusing on after we complete all the cross-industry functionalities. So we will also have the interactive BOP and ATP analytics are cross-industry functionality. We will have those functionalities sooner. Fair share logic and stock protection functionality are predominantly demanded by the fashion industry. So we will be building these functionalities. In fact, we have started building this functionality. The first versions are planned next year. And we will also have for automotive industry, the service parts ATP will be also part of our ATP journey. Two integrated topic, the integration topic that we are going to work on. One is the integration with the transportation scheduling. So as we know that, okay, the TM will be is embedded with S4 HANA. So we will have a direct integration with that and provide the transportation scheduling functionality of advanced ATP. And at the same time, we will also have a strong integration with production. Those who are familiar with the integration with PPDS of GATP, they know that okay, we have the CTP and MATP functionalities were there in APO. However, we intend to have those functionality in advanced ATP as well, but this might be a little different from what we had in APO, because in APO we were predominantly dependent on PPDS, but now that we are in core, aATP is in core, so probably we will try to leverage the core production planning functionalities and capacity planning functionalities to get the equivalent MATP and CTP functionalities. But again, this is not completely finalized. Things might change as well. So there are many PPDS customers who are requesting to have a direct integration, so things can change. But this is the current plan. And also we will be adding more machine learning capabilities and all the new buzzwords that you hear, that we will get those things. Yeah, so there are a lot of additional information from for the advanced ATP that the links can be found here. So, but today we have a lot of demos, and the functionality will be discussed by SCMA team. I have been working with the SCMA team for a long time now, and some of our best ATP consultants are part of this team. So I am very happy to work with them. So now I hand it over to Balraj.
Thank you very much, Sujit. Thanks for those kind words. So going forward, I think we are getting ready to host a demo. So before we host a demo, a quick couple of statements here. So the key challenges in terms of reliability of our order commit is still persistent with our customers. Majority of our customers still struggle, and the challenges related to how do we promise and how do we keep the commit. So the deliver to first commit metric, etc., as well as how do we manage shortages? I mean, be it component shortages in the high-tech industry or capacity shortages in manufacturing. So we constantly struggle with those shortages, as well as how do we manage priorities better? Over the years, we have managed priorities with the BOP in GATP. That's a single thread, but we do get advanced features with the aATP that are delivered, which you are going to see quick. So as well as how do we manage last minute escalations? I think the beauty of aATP, as Sujit has alluded to, is it is going to harness the full potential of S/4HANA without having the integration or a latency of the core interface going forward. So from a intelligent order promising point of view, what are the fundamental building blocks of aATP? So as you can see, product availability check, I think that is core to the aATP space. It is going to be triggered within S/4HANA, I mean, very core natively built. Product allocations, you're going to see the demo. So this is fairly advanced as well as very much simplified in terms of both maintenance setup as well as allocation features. BOP, extremely advanced again, and it has the different segments, and it is going to enable customers to differentiate in different threads, as well as you can move the data in different fashions. So the release for delivery app, it is a hybrid. What we see it as a hybrid of interactive BOP as well as ability to manage escalations in the last minute. With every release, SAP is improving these building blocks and enabling more intelligent features, so to speak, for the customers to leverage. With that, I will hand this over to Alfredo, so who's going to showcase the product allocation features of S/4HANA Advanced ATP. I'm going to stop the share. Alfredo, you can bring up your screen.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Let me see if I can reduce this. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. I wanted to show you real quick how allocation has transformed and actually became a simpler product compared to aATP, but the functionality is very strong. And I wanted to show it parallel, the allocation check during the sales order, but also the practicality of setting up the allocation. So we have tons of different experiences, and we try to put a scenario that it's very simple, that it's very straightforward for allocations, and that can give you an idea of how the allocation has been set in Fiori apps, similar to the aATP, but with a lot less steps and processes to accomplish the allocation purpose, right? So as Sujit mentioned, the allocation check was developed completely from new. and it keeps its traditional purpose of the mission of the allocation check. So I'm going to show you how to set up the allocation procedure by setting up the allocation data. We have prepared one of the allocation sets, and I'm gonna go through the settings of what is it needed. So in this allocation demo, we have the same capacity as before. So we have an allocation object with a certain definition and so on, units of measure, how many weeks or months or different granularities of periods that you can set up. And also you can set up different characteristics, and the characteristics are pretty simple. You just need to go to the field catalog from the sales order, adopt them, and then put them there. And then it generates everything. So it's very simple, very straightforward. No further processes to run to create the time series, except the assignment of the allocation sequence to the material. So here we can see that the allocation sequence has the previous capacity of backward consumption, forward consumption. In this case, we set it up for a weekly consumption. So it's gonna go 1 week backwards and 4 weeks forward. The allocation in general, it's very similar. If you know from GATP experience, if you are new, then it's a lot simpler than before, which is great for new users because they don't have to struggle with all the different nuances of GATP. In this case, now the allocation sequence, it's already set. Now it's ready to be associated to a material. So the material can be associated to the allocation setup, and you can set up a certain timestamp or time frame when you want to start using that allocation, when you want to finish it. In this case, we have it for the eternity in this case. So the allocation set, it's pretty much very simple. Those are the 3 tiles to set up allocations. And then now we come to the data of how you maintain it. Again, you don't have to generate everything. Everything is generated in the background. And here you have the quantities for that material, for that customer group, which were our characteristics in the characteristic combination. Simple, you set up, you can go immediately into edit mode, and then you can really maintain quantities right away. You can visualize data of the consumption for this allocation combination or characteristic combination, and see the 3 periods, what is available, what is consumed in a graphical way. And you can change data on the fly pretty much. You can then now have like a draft version, and as soon as you click save, then it's gonna put it into the kind of firm session or the firm data, right? So as you can see, the distribution of the allocation quantities, it's around different customer groups. So each customer could qualify for any of these custom customer groups. We have CA, ZB, CC, and CD according to priority. And then from the supply, we have developed different tools to make the calculation of the allocation quantity. SAP is working with IBP product to generate the quantities. We have also developed some tools for some of our customers according to different input or building blocks. Considering supply, considering orders incoming, considering certain time frames or calculations, sometimes very intelligent and very complex, sometimes very basic, as I have 1,000, I want to distribute it across these 4 groups, so it should be 250. But sometimes there is percentages applied or certain periodicity that you want to respect for your A customers across different months, and then you want to do other. So all this calculation, right now SAP doesn't have a tool to calculate that, but it's assuming you have a planning system that it's going to push these quantities. And as I said, most of the customers have different solutions. So it can be as complex as you want or as basic as taking the supply and calculating the data. So that's it for the setup of the allocation. Now we go to the order management. And I have prepared a few orders where we can see the allocation in action. Here, for example, I'm asking 500 units for a customer that is customer class A. And the supply is good enough, but then the allocation is gonna be kicked in. The allocation, it's very similar in terms of the configuration and so on in the background for ECC or for S4 HANA now. So you go to SPRO and you enable aATP, and then you can define if the allocation should be kicked in or not. For practical purposes, we have prepared all these scenarios. As you can see at the top, there's supply check and also allocation check. So for the supply, we see that there are 1,000 units in supply, but the requirement it's only 500. But still, the requirement is 500, and it only confirms 400. And the reason it's for the allocation check kicking in. So we start with 500 as requested on today's week, and it confirms 300. And if you remember correctly, I have maintained the data of 200 for that customer at the moment that I set it up. And there are another 200 in future periods that can be used. Therefore, the 400. As soon as you maintain the data, so let me go back and then probably maintain some quantities, changing this one to, let's say, 50 units for this customer. And we save the data, we commit it. We go back to the order and then trigger the check, and allocation now it's considered immediately, seamlessly, without having any, not even having to do /n or anything to exit the transaction. It goes directly to the allocation quantities. It respects the data that is maintained, and you can see the overview of this allocation plan. So in that case, the allocation is already kicking in and respecting the different checks that you are triggering, either capacity or customer-oriented allocation, plus the supply that it's available in the system. Therefore, also here, you can also come back and do more complex combinations in allocation. I don't want to stop the demo for different details about the allocation, but it's very strong and very competitive compared to the GATP solution. So it is really good. And as we speak, SAP continues developing and growing this product. So it's very exciting for our customers to migrate to S4 and have already this functionality available, and very, very simple, very fast setup compared to before, where you needed almost days to set it up, right? So I'll pass the control to Manoj, who's going to continue with the other sessions of or demos for the aATP. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A.
Thank you, Alfredo. I think there are a few questions on the chat window, so we will address them. Alfredo, you can respond to those. Manoj, can you now go on and share?
Thanks, Balraj and Alfredo. Can you confirm that you guys are able to see my screen?
We can see it.
Okay, good.
Go to demo mode, and also, yeah, you got 20 minutes or less than 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So moving on from product allocations, let's look at another new capability that we have within aATP. That's the alternate based confirmation, or ABC in short. So a common supply chain exception situation that we face is stockouts with the default or the planned supplying plan for a customer. It could be because the anticipated demand or the planned supply is incorrect to start with. So how do we react to such shortfalls during the order fulfillment process? So one of the options that we have within aATP is to use alternatives-based confirmations. With alternate-based confirmations, we can check for availability beyond our default supplying plan based on certain predefined rules or conditions. So for example, we could get a sales order from a key customer, or say we get a high priority sales order. We could, based on those conditions, check beyond the default location and check across locations for available supply. So in this scenario that I'm going to show here, we have our product itself stocked in 2 plants within the supply chain. The default supplying plan for the customer has planned supply, but it's coming in the future and there's no availability for it today. I'm going to be creating 2 sales orders here, one for a low priority customer and another for a high priority customer. So we have an ABC rule set up in the system that's going to trigger an alternative based confirmation, and it's going to trigger this alternative based confirmation only for the high priority customer. So let's go into the system and briefly look at the configuration. There isn't a lot of setup that needs to be done for this scenario. It's fairly straightforward and simple. So once we look at the setup itself, we can move on, look at the availability situation, and then finally create sales orders. So I'm going to go into the Fiori app here, and let's first start off by looking at the configuration itself. So the configuration has 2 steps. One is to configure the substitution strategy itself. So let me go in there. I have this strategy set up here. Straightforward. All it's saying is that we're going to be forcing an inline substitution, and we're going to be doing a planned substitution. So the substitution method itself is planned substitution. And finally, the rule itself is to give a max confirmation or earliest confirmation. That's the rule itself. And then once this is done, the next step is to assign that strategy to our condition. So in our scenario here, the condition itself is based on the customer grouping. So we've got 4 groupings of customers like what Alfredo had shown earlier. So our highest priority customers are the customers with priority or grouping ZA. So I've specifically set a rule in this case for the ZA customers. So for these ZA customers, our substitution rule is going to get triggered. So now going back to look at our availability situation. So let's look at our availability situation for our product here. So this was the product that we were going to be creating the sales order on. So let's look at the availability here for this product. So I have 2 plants. So the first plant, MT01. Here's the availability situation. So we're getting a PO. It's coming in sometime in July for a quantity of 10. And then I'm going to go into my second plant. Within my second plant, I have availability. A quantity of 100 is there in stock right now. So that's the availability situation. So we have 10 coming in the future for plant 1, and for our second plant, we have a quantity of 100 already available. So now I'm going to go in and create a sales order. So my first sales order is going to be for a lower priority customer. So I'm going to pick this low priority customer here. So I'm going to enter our material here. I'm going to request a quantity of 10. I'm going to be requesting it for today. So you'll see here that the confirmation is for July 3rd. So basically it's confirming based on the PO that we have. So if I go look at the ATP quantities, it's confirming based on this incoming purchase order. We don't have ABC kicking in for this particular customer. It's a low priority customer. We don't have ABC kicking in. So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to discard the sales order here. So let's keep the purchase order as it is. So I'm going to come back, create another sales order. This time I'm going to create a sales order for a higher priority customer. And let's create again for a quantity of 10, and I'm requesting it for today. So here you'll see that we are getting a confirmation back for today, and you'll notice here, even though our request was for the Fremont plant, we're getting a confirmation from the Chicago plant. And as we've seen, the Fremont plant has an incoming purchase order. It's for a future date. But since our customer belongs to a high priority customer group, we have ABC triggered, and we're getting a confirmation from an alternate plant. You'll also notice that the system performed an inline plant substitution here. So we entered MT01 here. It performed an inline plant substitution. For those familiar with GATP, we don't have any sub-items to deal with here in the situation. It's almost similar to the merge sub-item setting that's there within GATP. Another distinction with ABC in aATP is the fact that the system provided the best confirmation to meet the requested date. So we had a possibility to confirm from our original plan, but the system basically gave us the best possible date, looking at the supply within MT02 and also MT01. So it looked at both plans to come up with the best possible date. In contrast, GATP would have confirmed on the default plant in the scenario, even if the confirmation is for a later date. Another aspect of the intelligent order promising with aATP is that if I were to change this requested date, say if I were to change this to a date beyond, say July 1st, where our supply was coming in. So say I request for July 3rd for the same customer, it's the high priority customer, you'll see that the plant gets replaced by MT01. So now it goes back to its default plant, because the supply that's coming into the default plant can make or meet the requested date for this particular sales order. The ABC functionality itself is still evolving within aATP. It's currently restricted to the one method that we just demonstrated. So you would have seen that there's only the plant substitution method that's currently available. SAP is actively working on other methods, and I'm sure we'll see more options here in the future releases based on the roadmap that Sujit had shared. I'm sure that other methods like product substitution and some other strategies are coming up as well. So moving on from our alternate-based confirmation scenario, let's go into our next scenario here, which is backorder processing. So now that we have sales orders in our system, a common challenge that we face within order fulfillment is to handle the ever-changing supply or demand situations. So there are changes and disruptions in supply as well as changes to demand and their priorities as well. So let's see how we can use BOP to handle some of these challenges. So in this scenario that I'm going to demonstrate here for BOP, we have a backlog of sales orders for this product, and some of the sales orders are confirmed based on incoming purchase orders, and some of it is confirmed based on stock. So in this scenario, there's a disruption at the vendor, and one of the purchase orders is delayed. So the sales order confirmations have been adjusted in such a way so as to shield our strategic customers from the supply disruption that we are facing. So BOP within aATP offers us an option to create these 5 different buckets or segments for each BOP variant. So we could have a selection of orders within each of these segments, and within each of these segments, the selections itself can be sequenced differently. So the win segment here has orders which are confirmed as requested. The gain segment, we have orders which would improve confirmations if possible. The win and the gain segments will ensure that confirmations that are currently being provided does not deteriorate further. So when BOP runs, if the supply situation has changed, say there isn't enough ATP, after the BOP run, the win and the gain segments still retain their confirmations, even though there might be an over-confirmation situation. It's going to raise exceptions, but it's going to retain those confirmations. So within the redistribute segment, the sales orders are reconfirmed, and the behavior within this segment is very similar to what we see within the traditional GATP backorder processing. It's pretty much the same as GATP. You basically have backorder processing. The sales orders are unconfirmed and reconfirmed. Within the fill segment, confirmations are deleted if required. If there are supply shortages or say to provide for higher priority sales orders, so they could potentially lose their confirmations. And finally, we have the lose segment, which is the order set for which all confirmations are deleted irrespective of the supply situation. So even if there's supply, the orders within this lose segment are going to lose their confirmation. So that's basically for, say, customers that are low on credit or have credit issues and say we don't want to confirm those orders, then they could go into this lose segment. So let's look at the BOP variant that we have set up in the system, and we can see the various segments that have been set up, and then we'll run BOP to see how it confirms sales orders when our supply situation changes.
So after you're done with BOP, move on to the release for delivery app within the system.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So let me quickly show what exactly we have as far as the configuration itself goes. So I'm going to go straight into the variant here. I'm not going to go into the different segments. So I have a variant here, which is based on the customer grouping. So I've got these variants for class A customers. There's the win segment, again for B, and then for the class D customers, they are in the lose segment. So I'm going to go back here and schedule this. Before I schedule the job itself, let's look at the supply situation. Let's look at some of the orders that are sitting out there. So the product that we're going to use here for this demo is the 4 product. So I'm going to take that here. Let's look at the supply situation for this product. So here's the supply situation, the ATP situation itself. So we've got a purchase order coming in on the 24th. We have a sales order that's confirmed for the 24th. And then we have other sales orders sitting in the system. One of them, the low priority sales order, that's confirmed. And then we have two other sales orders that are not confirmed. So this supply is, say, delayed. We could go into this purchase order and change the date here to simulate the supply disruption. And then I would run BOP for this particular set of orders. Or maybe to save some time here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger BOP directly. I'm not going to change the purchase order. What you would see is basically this high priority sales order confirmed against this PO should get a better confirmation. So I'm going to just quickly go into the sales order here before I run BOP. So I just want to bring up the sales order. So this was our sales order 279. So that's requested for 417. So we want it on 417, but you'll see that the confirmation is on 426 based on the incoming PO. So I'm going to go back. So I'm going to go back into BOP. So I'm going to pull up a variant here. So I have this variant. I'm just going to copy this job that's already there, and I'm going to trigger it immediately. So I have it scheduled, but I'm just going to run it immediately here. So the job is running. And you can see that the job is completed now. So if I go into the log itself, it's going to provide me with details. So there's a better place to look at the log is the monitor. So if I go into the monitor, I can see what has happened within this run. So if I go back in here, it's going to show me the last runs. And it's telling me the processing status on the various orders, and it's also going to highlight some of the confirmation issues that are there. So now if I go back into the sales order, you're going to see that this high priority sales order that we had is confirmed. So you'll see that it's confirmed as requested. So instead of the 4/24 date that we saw, it's confirmed for an earlier date based on the backward processing. And if I open up the low priority order here, you'll see that it has lost its confirmation. In fact, a better place to look at it would be the availability overview. So here, if I refresh this, you're going to see the change in confirmation now. You'll see some of the orders have lost their confirmation. So now that we've seen BOP, I'll move on to the next scenario, which is the release for delivery app. So BOP itself handles changes to demand priorities and changes to supply situation. But in the short term, say between BOP runs, we have a change in demand priorities, and we want to get a high priority order out of the door. The release for delivery app comes in handy. We really don't want to wait until the next BOP run to trigger to dispatch that order out. So let's see how we can use the release for delivery app to quickly dispatch an order out of the gate. So the release for delivery app itself, it follows a three-step process. The first step is to bring up a work list of orders. So we can assign various work lists to the user ID. So in this case, I have a work list for the US sales manager that has been assigned to my user ID. So in this case, there's our product. You can see that there is a high priority order sitting out there, and there's an STO as well. The STO itself is fully confirmed, but our sales order is not confirmed. So the supply that we have right now is for 100, and that's confirmed against our STO at this point. So what I'm going to do now is to adjust the confirmations. So I'm going to change the confirmations on the sales order to 100, and I'm going to reduce the confirmations on the STO to 90, and I'm going to publish this back. So now once I've published it, if I go back, look at the sales order within the system, so the sales order itself is 286, I would now see that it has a confirmation. And then once it's confirmed, I can go ahead and for this order, I can go ahead and release it for delivery. So I just select that product, I click the release for delivery. And once I've done that, what you're going to see is on the back end for this particular order, if I go into the document flow, you'll see that the delivery itself has been created. So as you can see, the sales order, the high priority sales order has now got a delivery, and the STO itself that's there, it has also got a delivery. So if I go back, the STO also got a delivery, but it's got a delivery for a quantity of 90. We could also create over confirmation situations here and just create a delivery for the sales order without delivering the STO. So those are some options that are available within the release for delivery app.
Manoj, thank you very much.
So that concludes.
Yeah, thank you very much for that demo. So we got 2 more minutes on the scheduled time. We can also extend by 10 additional minutes if participants have questions. So I'm going to share our last slide, and also, as Manoj, thank you for that. So you can put that on a share mode. So we are available at Sapphire for additional questions or comments, but we are eager to support your journey in terms of migrating to the aATP solution, or if you want our vision and advice on how to migrate, we are ready and available to help. So with that, I will hand over to the team for any additional questions. You can raise your hand, and then I will unmute you and you can speak. Okay, so Ramesh, I'm going to open you up. Can you speak now, Ramesh? Yes. You
yeah,
can.
I hope I am audible.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah, just wanted to know from you how closely aATP order elements are integrated with the S/4HANA Advanced Planning PPDS. So is it totally integrated, or the development is still going on? Since I'm not aware, I'm asking that. Hello?
Yes, thank you. Sujit or anyone who can take that question?
So Ramesh, when you say how well it's integrated with PPDS, are you talking about the various ATP elements itself?
Yeah. like in APO world, when we say PPDS, we see that based on the dynamic tagging concept, whichever,
Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah, Ramesh, yeah, it's Sujit here. I can take that question. So there is currently no integration between S4 HANA Advanced ATP and the embedded PPDS or the standalone PPDS. So as I said in the beginning of today's session, so currently we are looking at the possibilities of how we can integrate with the production scenarios. So since now S4 HANA Advanced ATP is part of the core itself,
Mhm.
for the different production scenarios, we would love to integrate directly with the PP and the capacity planning that is there in the core S4 HANA system. But that does not rule out the possibility that uh, whether we can do it with PPDS or not. But as of now, there is no integration available between PPDS and aATP, and not that it is planned in the immediate future as well.
So is it not integrated with the S4 advanced planning? That is nothing but the PPDS module itself.
It is not. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sujit. All right, any more questions? Thank you all for joining today. And
Hey, Balaraj,
yes.
there was a question, maybe, I don't know if Sujit knows.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about stock transport order. We know that the stock transport order is included like in the allocation and the availability check in advanced ATP. So he's asking specifically about stock transfer requisitions. And does Sujit have that answer in the top of his head?
No, we do not have the stock transfer requisitions. It's only the stock transport orders that are integrated.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I don't give the wrong answer. Okay, thank you, Sujit. Bye.
Yeah, there is another question from Uday Sagar. Uday, I think you are unmuted. You can speak now.
Hey, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, my question is on the availability check on the MRP areas. So I think in GATP it was really tough to configure that scenario where we would do an availability check on an MRP area level. So with advanced ATP, is there any simple way to configure this?
Again,
I would say one.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one approach is to use segmentation. So that could be used as a proxy for your MRP areas. A lot of times the MRP area concept itself was being used because there was no other way within GATP. With aATP, we have this option with segmentation, and that's one way of using it to basically do something similar to what MRP areas would have done.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more question from Saurabh. Saurabh, you're unmuted now.
Hey, I have seen the whole presentation, and I understand the functionality which were shown, like BOP, ATP check, and RBA. They pretty much compare with the GATP current functionalities, and except the two win and gain things in BOP, I don't think any other thing which aATP is bringing new on the table. So if I have to sell this, to my business, so I want to know what is it that this tool is bringing new, if I as compared to GATP. Because if I compare to GATP, I find this, not fully developed, is still half baked, and doesn't render the full functionality which GATP offers as of now. So what is it in this tool, which is better than GATP?
Yeah, I'm going to take that, and then Sujit, perhaps you can second me. So, Saurabh, I think the beauty of aATP is its integration. So it is natively embedded in S4 HANA. It has the full potential of harnessing all the S4 HANA features, and also you do not have that SIF latency, so to speak. Beyond that, yes, the features are being built as we speak, and then it's going to help you to easily configure, simplify the the legacy GATP type of solution. Yes, we do agree that there are quite a few features that need to be caught up with from an aATP standpoint, but the current direction and the progress that SAP had made in terms of simplifying, for example, you have seen the product allocation feature. In the legacy GATP world, you had 33 plus steps, whereas in the new features, it's only 5 apps. So the overall concept of migrating to the apps, simplifying the user interface, enabling some of the advanced features like machine learning or predictive analytics. You've seen the release for delivery app, which is somewhat closer to the predictive analytics. So it's gonna pop in those orders that you can react to. And there are other integration elements to the core S/4HANA concept of the apps itself that are going to lead you to the future. Sujit.
So thank you, Balraj, for addressing this. That was a good reply. I had just one add-on questions on the no-SIF thing you mentioned. And that question is especially related to product allocation functionalities, the first one which you demonstrated. So a lot of time goes in clearing the inconsistencies in product allocation, as you know, right? Because of the SIF and ECC and APO being out of sync. So we run those correction reports, OM16 and whatnot, right? So it's all because basically the consumption table shows something else and ECC has something else. So with no SIF and this whole box being embedded in S4HANA, so the integration issues being solved. So do we assume that the allocation inconsistencies, will not be there with this tool?
Yeah, it will reduce a lot the incidences for that. What we know in the past is that SAP has also applied lots of nodes, and sometimes if you have something that it's incorrect in SIF, it's because of some node missing or something that went different. It shouldn't be inconsistent all the time, but we know it happens. That's why SAP created reports, but now it's more streamlined with aATP. So definitely the possibility of having those inconsistencies, it's a lot less prone for that. So it should be reduced. And also it depends how complex your allocation is. Sometimes adding certain sequences and so on might look like it's inconsistent, but probably it's correct. So it is case by case, but the SIF layer would eliminate a lot of that.
Thank you, Alfredo. I just have a request to all the SAP guys that we will love to see the sales bomb functionality, for allocation built up in aATP. I just heard that it's only available at the header level, so we would like to do a component allocation with the sales bomb in aATP. So if this is something in the roadmap, or you guys could put it in the roadmap, that will be really good.
Thank you, Saurabh. I think you can submit that through the SAP portal as well as a customer. So I think.
Okay, sure. I'll do that.
All right.
There's another, Balraj, there's another quick question, maybe for Sujit, is when will ATP work with scheduling agreements?
Thanks a lot for this question. I have been hearing this question multiple times now. Yeah, so we this is in our roadmap, but I unfortunately cannot commit on any specific time that this is coming at that point of time. So this is in our roadmap, because for many automotive companies are working with scheduling agreements, but yeah, we do not have a specific timeline when it is coming. Which is it a customer request or?
Is Matt Mantut that is asking the question in the Q&A.
Okay. So maybe you can just drop me an email, and then maybe we can take. I would I am currently collecting all the customer requests that is coming for scheduling agreements.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If we critical number, then we can push forward this backlog item. Yeah. So maybe you can just drop me an email.
Yeah, and I think Balraj. So anybody in the attendees that has any questions after this, they can contact Balraj, and then he will follow up.
Yep.
Sure.
Excellent.
I have one last question.
Yes, Ramesh.
Yeah. So So what are the parameters or KPIs which you guys take into consideration while the prioritization is done for the customer groups? May I know that?
So in this demo that we just had, the customer group itself was based on the actual master data field. So on the customer master, there's a grouping field. So we just picked that. But that was just a field that we picked for the demo. You could basically have any field from the sales order based on which you could do your prioritization. It could be the delivery priority within the sales order, or it could be based on the ABC classification that's there on the customer master. So you have various criteria that you could use.
Okay. So based on my need, I can use anything.
Okay.
Yes, it is. A lot of it is configurable.
Sure. Thanks, Manoj.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramesh. Thanks, everyone. Then I think we are going to wrap this up now. Appreciate all of you joining, particularly I think folks have joined from the European time zone and India time zone as well. So we look forward to hearing from you guys on any feedback, comments, as well as any additional questions back to us, and we'll be eager to and happy to respond. Thank you all for joining. I think, yes. Any other comment? Okay. So thank you very much, Sujit, for hosting with us, and we'll look forward to meeting you at Sapphire, and perhaps we can touch base. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah. Thanks, Manoj.
Thank you.